So, welcome to the Road to Respair podcast. This week we've got Alain Rumpf, known as a Swiss with a Pulse on Instagram. I guess I've been aware of you for quite a long time. It's over 10 years, must be like 12 years. And I started, seeing what you were doing on Instagram, and it kind of motivated me to come and experience Switzerland. But a lot has changed since then. So it's really, really cool to catch up and find out what you've been up to since. Could I ask you just to give us a brief sort of introduction to who you are, what you do, and why you're here?
Yeah, sure. Well, my name's Alain. I live in Switzerland, in the Swiss Alps, French-speaking part of Switzerland, not too far from Lake Geneva, and the UCI headquarters, actually. It's just down the mountain from here. And I live here in a small village called Grillon with my wife Lily, our son Ben, and I'm 54. I've been racing my bike since I was 12, so that was a long, long time ago, and always been involved in cycling in some ways, as a rider, racer, sports administration, as a guide, tour operator, photographer, many
Everything really cycling related.
Yeah, and basically nowadays I just try to do anything I can to ride a bike and be able to send a bill from time to time.
Nice. That's living the dream.
Yeah, it's I cannot complain. Definitely. It took me a long, long time to push the button, but I have absolutely no regret. It's a good life.
Congratulations. So I guess your day to day is, I mean, you live in an incredible place. I was lucky enough to come over and although the ride where I met you was a little bit of a disaster, obviously, because I got a blowout at 70k an hour can't remember what village we were coming down into. I think it's one of the most scariest moments on the bike I've ever experienced. But it was part of a wider trip with Swiss tourism where I don't know how I landed it. It was like just complete dream come true. And I visited a couple of cantons. I came to see you. I was down in Ticino for a while. And I just got to like really, really experience, I mean, it still goes down as the most beautiful place I've ever ridden. So, when I see friends or you living the dream, as I put it, I get very, very jealous, and it brings back memories. I've not been back since 2000, and I guess I had the misfortune of Brexit, which put my travel company in a very unfortunate position. The travel has been limited ever since, and we had COVID, obviously. Switzerland's was always a bit of a weird one for me because it wasn't everyone's go-to choice, and once I'd been, I could never understand why. So there'd be this summer exodus to the French Alps or to the Dolomites, or obviously places like Mallorca, Girona now, and the Pyrenees. But very rarely would I see people packing up and heading to Switzerland for a cycling holiday. The infrastructure is the best. The getting around is really, really easy, and the riding is insane. I can't figure out quite why it's not as high up on people's bucket list as it should be. Or is it just a UK thing?
No, it's not. It's not. And well, first of all, you're a very good ambassador for cycling in Switzerland. You've just summed it up. So I wouldn't add.
Send me back, please.
But I think it boils down to a very simple reason. Pro cycling is the Tour de France and the Giro. If you ask someone in the UK or anywhere outside of the Alps, hey, where do you want to ride your bike? What are your top 10 climbs you want to do? They will say Alpe d'Huez, Mont Ventoux, Stelvio. They will not think of the Furka, the Tremola, and some other amazing climbs we have here just because they haven't seen them on TV. Fausto Coppi has not won stages of the Tour de France or the Giro, back in the days, or Bernard Hinault or Tadej Pogacar. I think that's the main reason. And then, that's where everyone wants to go, which I understand. Although I believe there are 100 climbs in Switzerland that are better than the Alpe d'Huez, So,
I completely agree. I always used to get frustrated, and sometimes I still do. Sort of seeing people go to the same places all the time. Now, we live in a big world, and Europe itself is so incredible. Just how close we are to everything, and how easy and accessible everything is, and just with a little bit of imagination, or even dropping someone like you a message and being able to come over and ride some just insane places. It's unreal.
Yeah, no,
And
for sure.
apart from, so you've obviously, I'm not sure if when I met you, ultra cycling, I think it was in its kind of how we see it today. I think it was kind of in its infancy back in, I'm going to say 2015, 2016. Um, whereas, it, I, 9 years have passed, 10 years have passed, and now almost every other person I know is doing an ultra distance cycling event.
Mm.
It's been an incredible growth. And I think that, and obviously gravel's exploded as well. I'm looking back and just wondering, was cycling boring when I first started and we only had road cycling, mountain biking, and cyclocross? Now there's everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I enjoy ultra cycling, bikepacking, gravel biking a lot nowadays. It just came at the right time for me after doing a lot of different things, racing on the roads at a junior and elite level, then moving on to Gran Fondo riding and racing.
Yeah,
I did the TCR in 2015, which was the third edition.
yeah,
But it was just not it was not in the script. I was never gonna do ultra cycling or bikepacking. I was still a hardcore roadie, and all I cared about was to have the lightest possible bike, to be aero, to be fast, and that type of thing. And then suddenly I was in between jobs, and a friend of mine had done the TCR the year before and said, "Hey, the deadline for entries is tonight." And I said, "Okay, well, I just enter and see what happens." I was sure that I wouldn't be picked, but I was. So I had 6 months to become a bikepacker. I made it to the finish. I still don't know how,
yeah.
but then, yeah, I got the bug, and it hasn't left me since then.
And so what's the schedule looking for like this year? Have you got more races this year lined up?
Yeah, the big race will be the Trans-Pyrenees, the
Okay.
Lost Spots version of the Trans-Pyrenees that starts on the 24th of September. I was going to do it last year, but well, life got in the way. I had to focus on something else than ultra cycling and bikepacking, so I decided not to do it, and that will be the big focus. But last year I had some good races as well, so I can't complain. Every year I try to have at least one big race, to
Yeah.
focus and forward to.
If so, looking back over the last, I guess it's 11 years since you first did TCR, what's the most important thing you've learned about ultra distance racing
What have I learned about ultra distance racing?
or yourself even?
Well,
So,
yeah, I was
so
going to
there's
say,
two
I
questions.
definitely learned some things about myself, and that's why I do it, basically. It's like, yeah, you can do way more than you think you are able to. And it means so many different things. But I think for me, ultra cycling and bikepacking, I don't like to talk about ultra cycling because it sounds like this heroic feat. And at the end of the day, apart from the top racers, we're just like everyday cyclists who just do something really hard from time to time to feel good about it. But for me, it's a way of disconnecting. It's a giant, very hard holiday, like digital detox, basically for me.
Amazing.
And I love it. I love it because all you do is ride, eat, sleep. You're just focusing on moving the dots on the tracker, and that's it. There's nothing else that matters.
I kind of feel like so I don't think I could ever see myself do. I've been invited to do. I got invited to do Trans Pyrenees actually last year, but I don't feel it's really me, and I don't know what it is about it that has held me back. I do. I like bikepacking. I go on lots of long distance bikepacking trips all over Europe still, but for me it feels. I think I'd call what I do touring. So I like a nice hotel. Distances don't really matter. Some days it's 100, some days it's 250. And I like the not having any pressure to get anywhere, do anything, or finish anything. But the experiences that bikepacking has given me have been incredible. And I went from being, uh, I think I'm the first to admit, I lived a fairly pampered life as a tour guide. You're getting paid to ride every day and stay in 5-star hotels and listen to some pretty cool stories from people. And this is almost the exact opposite of that, where I'm not really talking to anyone and I'm not being paid to do it. And I'm not staying in 5-star hotels. But there is definitely something about just getting out there, and whether it's on your own or with people, I think, and these journeys of self-discovery. And I love watching, I love listening to people who've raced or do bikepacking events, and the stories, the things they get to see, the places they get to go off the beaten track, the views of mountains or wherever it is that if you're driving in a car on the road, you're just not going to get to see. And getting to spend time just in nature. I was going back through some of my old Swiss photographs, and I found one where I was just sat at the top of a Newfoundland, and I think I was there for about an hour, and I had no reason to stop. I wasn't tired. I wasn't hungry. I just sat there and soaked it in, and it's one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. I like the fact that you described it as bikepacking, not ultra. Ultra does sound really intimidating.
It's a wonderful community. It's also the people you meet, you meet at the start, at the finish, the stories you share. It's also because, like you, I don't need the racing element, actually. It is a motivation to train maybe a little bit harder and do cool stuff as training. So that's a motivation, but I don't do it for the results. I don't do it to make myself miserable, really. But yeah, I meet really cool people. I go to places I wouldn't go otherwise. Last year I did the accursed race in the Balkans. Never go there by myself. I mean, the amount of research that was put into creating the route, I wouldn't be able to do it myself. So the experience was amazing, and being there. Yeah, for me, I just love bikepacking, and it can be a small trip, a big trip, but yeah, just being on the road and moving, in the mountains from valley to valley, and stopping at the top, taking pictures, everything. It's wonderful.
So and I kind of touched on it earlier on. For me, you were always like the go-to encyclopedia for all things Switzerland, and I can't imagine there's much you don't know about all places to ride. If you could list, if someone wanted to come to Switzerland, for example, for a cycling holiday, is there a really like a 4-day itinerary off the top of your head that you say you've got to go and do this area, or is it just too big to be able to do a really concise?
No, I mean, there's a few places, there's a few go-to places. There's the obvious ones and the less obvious ones. I think the obvious one is Andermatt.
Yep.
Because you can access, I don't know, maybe 7 big alpine passes from there. There's the 3 big loops that take you over at least 7 of the big passes: the Furka, the Newfoundland that you rode, the Tremola, which is a cobbled climb, with 21 switchbacks.
That's my most of my friends, when they think of cobbles, they think of Northern Europe, Belgium, Flanders, and I'm not a huge fan of riding in Northern Europe. And to be able to say my favorite cobbles are in Switzerland, everyone's like, "What are you talking about?"
It's great because it's a pass. It's away from the traffic because there's a tunnel under the mountain. There's a highway over the mountain. So yeah, you're like on the 3rd way of going, over the pass. And these are not Paris-Roubaix cobbles. These are Swiss cobbles. So very civilized cobbles, beautiful and totally rideable. And it's just an amazing experience. So yeah, Andermatt would be a place to go to do some tough rides, because like the small loop is 3,000 meters of climbing. But then there's some hidden gems, if I can say, because Switzerland is already a hidden gem. But the gem in the gem would be for me the Saanich Pass, which is in Valais, in the Valais regions, or like French-speaking part of Switzerland. It's actually just over on the border between the French-speaking and the German-speaking parts. Another cool thing about riding in Switzerland is that you have 4 different language regions, and you can totally ride over 2 easily in any loop you do. But the Saanich Pass starts in the vineyards in Valais and finishes at the bottom of a glacier. I mean, it used to be the bottom of a glacier. Now it's receding quickly, so you still see it in the distance. It's 1,700 meters of climbing, so that's the magnitude of the Stelvio, just a little less, but a big climb. The beauty of it is that it is a dead end, meaning that there's no traffic. So, I mean, you've certainly guided clients on the Stelvio. It's an amazing experience. I love the Stelvio. However, it can be very, very busy and it can be quite miserable.
Yeah.
For me, the Sun Edge is the Stelvio without the traffic, basically.
Nice.
And I said it's a dead end, but it's not, because actually you go over the pass, you continue 3 kilometers, you get to a dam, a little lake, a dam. There's a little auberge, a restaurant. And then on the other side, there's a cable car. So you catch a cable car, you hang your bike on the outside of the cable car, and then you go down a vertical cliff, basically down the other side, and you're in the German-speaking part of Switzerland, and you can make a loop. So that's a very special experience that I really, really recommend to any cyclist.
I'm definitely. So I was supposed to come last year, funnily enough. I spoke to Swiss Tourism about potentially coming over, and I'm trying to think who it was, Sete Sport, who run Chasing Cancellara. So I was going to come over and do that, but I picked up a bit of a knee injury in the summer and had to cancel. So I'm hoping that this year I might be able to come back. That's an event I'd really like to do. So we'll see. But if I can get back over and pick out a few more highlights, things that I've not done in the past, that would be incredible.
Well, give me a shout. That will be an opportunity to catch up.
So funnily enough, anytime I speak to Swiss Tourism, they always speak to Alain. So I think even when I spoke,
are you speaking to Simon at Switzerland
absolutely,
Tourism?
yeah. I catch up with Simon on a regular basis.
I had a beer with him last Saturday. He was here with the journalist and a photographer for a winter project here, and he stayed in a hotel 100 meters from my house. So we caught up.
Okay, well, Simon, I'm going to be hitting you up for the summer. I'll let him know. And what else is going on with Swiss cycling? I guess you've got obviously with Tudor and Q36.5. They are pretty much they're a Swiss team, aren't they? Swiss registered, maybe.
There's quite a few teams that are Swiss registered for some fiscal reasons, I would think, and it is what it is. Like, there are a lot of riders who don't live in Monaco or Andorra who do live in Switzerland, but Tudor is really the Swiss team. They embrace the Swiss identity. It's the team of Fabian Cancellara. It has Swiss sponsor. They have the top Swiss riders. So that's the Swiss team.
And what's the racing culture like? Is Switzerland? You've obviously got Tour Romandie and Tour de Suisse, and they're always two really, really good races to watch. As a Van Rysel employee now, seeing Paul Sextus last year, getting that stage win was incredible. It's the racing there is so exciting. It's why I find Swiss so challenging. When I watch the racing, it's as beautiful as anywhere else, if not more so. The roads are incredible. It is relatively quiet. It still sort of baffles me to just get on a plane, pack your bike, and go to Switzerland.
Yeah, I mean, it's super scenic. And I remember Graham Watson, the famous photographer of the 80s, 90s, and until the 2010s, I think, that Switzerland was his favorite place to shoot. He loved the Tour of Switzerland for the same reasons. The racing culture, the racing scene, yes, we have the pro races and they are quite popular. The Tour de Suisse is one of the biggest sporting events in the country, definitely. And there's a lot of people who ride bikes because cycling is popular, like everywhere. And there's been a big growth in the last 10, 20 years, even more so since COVID. The amateur racing scene, the club racing is undergone a lot of changes, back in the days. And now I realize it's 30 to 40 years ago. There were lots of races. I could race every weekend, 2 races, not so far from my house. And now it has shrunk significantly. So there's less clubs, less teams, less races because traffic, because competition, because lots of other activities for kids to do other than playing football outside on the street or riding bikes around the neighborhoods. So obviously the situation has changed. The sport, I mean, there's some good athletes. Like everywhere else, you have this culture, where people don't take up cycling to race as kids, but they start when they are 20, 30, 40, 50, and they get very passionate about it. And you have all these different subcultures, I would say. So there's lots of people riding. I live on the slopes of the Col de la Croix, which is one of the big passes here in western Switzerland. And I see a lot of cyclists and more young people, more women, and that's great to see.
Are you seeing, it's not quite happened here yet, but you're seeing more e-bikes as well?
On the trails. So when you go mountain biking, if you have, how do we call them? Acoustic bike. I like the acoustic bike because you have the acoustic bike.
Yeah, I've heard that a couple of times, and I can't figure out. I think the last person who said it to me was French, I think. And like acoustic to me is always about sound.
It
So
is, but there's the electric guitar and there's the acoustic
I guess,
guitar. So
yeah. Well, that's probably where it comes from. There you go.
that's it. So when you ride an acoustic mountain bike, people look at you. They're like, "Oh, you're not riding an e-bike, you're strong, you fit," because e-bike is a wonderful way of riding in the mountains. You go higher, further, and then you have more fun. So it makes total sense. On the road, it's still a different story. I think the e-road bike is wonderful, and I've tested some, and I might get one just to be able to go on a coffee ride, to the top of the local mountain without killing myself. So I think it's a wonderful thing for a lot of different cyclists. But I think the brands haven't found a good story to tell
Yeah, maybe.
to promote the e-road bike. It's
I
still.
think from a mobility and tourism perspective, it probably has opened up. I was in France last summer, and even just riding up Ventoux, there were people in normal clothes on e-bikes, just kind of coasting up Mont Ventoux. And the access that it gives people is really, really positive. I fully accept that one day, as I get older, I may need an e-bike because I will still want to ride. I will still want to go places. And if my body can't take it, but an e-bike can take me there, then great.
No, absolutely. And, my wife had some serious back problems a few years ago, and she just kept riding because she had an e-bike. And so that was great. And whenever someone on an e-bike, catches me and says, "I'm sorry, I'm on an e-bike," I just laugh and I say, "Hey, you're out on the road. I'm out on the roads. We are the winners today. We are not on
Yeah,
our
yeah,
soap,
yeah.
enjoying the outdoors." And, we laugh and we continue. We're all cyclists. It's just different tribes. But at the end of the day, we have a lot in common.
So it's not just racing and being a Swiss encyclopedia. You've got a few other bits and pieces that you do as well, don't you? Like content production and photography.
Yeah, photography. I was trying to remember how I got into photography as I was, thinking about our conversation. I think the trigger for me was getting from my work, getting a BlackBerry in
Okay.
2008, 2009. Suddenly I had this thing in my pockets that could take pictures, like very basic pictures, as you can
Yeah, yeah.
imagine, back in the days with such a device. But this is where I started taking pictures, and very bad selfies at top of mountains and bad
We've all been
bad
there.
framed landscape pictures and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I got into it. This is when social media was also taking off. I don't know when Instagram really started, and so I got an account and started to enjoy it as a hobby. I think it also changed my way of riding a bike. So like looking around more,
Yeah, okay.
and somehow it just became my thing. I became friend with a professional photographer, Dan Patitucci, who lived in the Dolomites at the time. I met him there, and he taught me a lot and showed me that you could live from that. I never thought I could ever do that in my life, but he was kind of my hero, my role model, and trying to replicate what he was doing very badly, but getting slightly better at it over time. And yeah, I mean, that's just how it started. Lost my job, decided to go into guiding and organizing tours, and content was a big part of it, to promote it. So I got more and more into photography and somehow started to publish articles in media and magazines with my pictures and feeling like an imposter, which is still the case today, of course.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like I'm talking to myself here a little bit because it was a similar journey for me. I remember my first proper trip work-wise was probably Allure. And again, I don't know what phone I had back then, but I do remember taking a really horrible, awful, cheesy selfie on a phone, and it was all pixelated and a bit shit. But then as I started doing more and more guiding, I found that, the best way to sell a destination was through inspirational photography, for want of a less wanky word. And it would be a case of either driving around and recceing places or having a camera on you on the bike, which now kind of I think probably in the last 4 or 5 years where social media I feel it's changed quite a lot. And everyone wants to be a creator and an influencer. I don't think I would ever ride with a camera ever again. But it would be a case of I sold so many trips through taking nice photos of amazing places because it's all we had at the time.
Yeah, for sure. And I was talking to someone I consider as a professional photographer recently, and I was expressing this, my imposter syndrome, and say, hey, well, not sure I can really call myself a photographer, and just said, you have a camera, you take picture, I guess you're a photographer. That was his answer. And if people, enjoy what you do, if from time to time you sell pictures, to a destination, a brand, or me, I guess that makes you a photographer as well.
And I guess it would almost be, for me, it would be rude to not live where you live. And if you ride, not to take a million photographs because it is so stunning. And to get to share that with people is really, really cool. In terms of, so you race road, you've done a few bikepacking events, let's call them bikepacking events. What's the gravel scene in Switzerland like? I'm assuming it must be pretty strong.
So I'm not super familiar with the racing scene, to be honest. There are races. Actually, there's one UCI gravel race in my neighborhood, trails, and I do help them with a few things, but I'm not familiar with the top riders and how these races
Yeah,
are
same.
raced stuff. So I'm
I
more
feel I
into.
feel that gravel has kind of passed me by a little bit.
Yeah, that's an interesting scene for sure, but I'm not too familiar with it. But in terms of terrain, where I live, it's alpine gravel. So that's really, it's steep. It's steep up, it's steep down. Sometimes it's technical. Sometimes you think maybe I should have a mountain bike, but it's fun. It's fun because, like everywhere else, the gravel bike is this magic tool that combines the best of both worlds. You can ride on tarmac, but then when you see these 4x4 roads that goes right, you can take it and see where it
Yeah.
leads. And, you can do a little single track. If you need to hike, why not? And then suddenly you're on the other side of the mountain, which is a thing you wouldn't be able to do on a road bike.
Yeah, I think for me it does open up. It does open up places that you wouldn't otherwise get to see. I've yet to really experience much gravel abroad. I've generally either been on my road bike in Tuscany riding Strada Bianca, or I think I would like to experience it at some point. It's another thing that I kind of dabble with, but you know, we can all have too many bikes, I guess. Or can you?
Yeah, no, for sure. But as a roadie, I have to say that the gravel bike is also great because I can escape the traffic.
Yeah. I mean, even here in central London, I mean, most people do have a gravel bike, and not just because they want to ride the Rift or the Tracker or those events, but just being able to get off the busy roads. And there are routes you can take that will get you off and away from traffic and have a nice quiet ride pretty easily, even central London. I'm planning to do it tomorrow. I'll head out into Surrey and I will barely hit any tarmac on my way out. I think it's really, really cool that gravel has opened up a whole new area for people to ride.
It's also a great bike packing bike, because the geometry and the fact that you can have wider tires, not necessarily gravel tires, but wider
Yeah, I mean,
tires.
I'm just going to say, I don't know if this will work, but down my hallway there, that second bike there, that's I guess it's like I would probably categorize it as all road. And it's not a phrase that I particularly like, but it will take up to a 40 mil tire. It's great for bike packing. I've got 3 sets of wheels for it, and it will take me pretty much anywhere. And I really, really like bikes that, whether it's bike packing or gravel or all road, the way that brands are coming out with these bikes now that are super versatile. And yes, you can buy extra tires or buy spare sets of wheels, and you just do so much on them. It's great. I really like the fact that brands are embracing. I think everything is being called endurance at the moment rather than all road or gravel light or whatever it is. They're still road bikes, but they just have a bit more capability about them. So I think it's a really, really cool thing to see coming through.
It is. I think it's also due to the fact that the World Tour bikes are becoming Formula Ones.
Yes.
Not even back in the days, not so long ago, and maybe it's still the case for some, but you can buy the Tour de France bike and ride it, and it's okay, but it's soon going to be over, I think. So it means that the brands are now selling bikes to even the passionate riders, and they don't need to just replicate the World Tour bike, but they can create bikes that are really good for riding for the everyday rider, because I think it's just two different things now. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of people going out and buying race bikes who don't race, which is cool. Like if you want something, just go and get it and go and ride it. But I think it's also cool, really, really cool to see. So funnily enough, I've got this journal post in my head. I've actually written it for the website about. It's called Performance or Performative, and it's largely a bit of a rant. I've not published it yet, but it's a bit of a rant about how the industry has this obsession with performance. And actually, performance is quite a small part of the industry. Even if you just look at, let's say, drop bar cycling, there's probably more people who will ride endurance, full road, gravel, recreational, travel. There's all these different sort of like subgenres, but the industry is focusing on performance and aero. It feels, for me, I kind of struggle with that. I think, why aren't endurance bikes or non Grand Tour winning bikes, why are they not cool? Why is the effort not being put into those the same way? Because that market is so huge, and surely attracting more cyclists and making cycling more accessible is a good thing, as opposed to being elitist and just focusing on aero. But aero sells, I guess.
That's it. But the experience is better on an all-road or endurance bike than on a Tour de France bike, unless you are doing 10 hours of gym work a week and what's not, unless you train like a pro. Those bikes are not made for the bodies of everyday people. It's
Yeah.
like it's driving a Formula One in the streets, or maybe not quite yet, but it's getting there. Of course, it's cool. Formula One looks cool, but a good car made for everyday driving is probably more enjoyable in the end.
Yeah, I think it was one of the Colnago engineers came out last year when they launched the new bike, and he said, this isn't for you. This is for
Yeah.
Tajay. And I was like, I thought that was quite a brave and really cool thing to say. And I sort of wish more manufacturers would come out with statements like that and just admit this is a full-on race bike, and if you're not racing, you might not enjoy it.
Yeah. But it's coming. It's coming. I think now when you see where the Tour de France bikes are going, it's a transition phase, I think.
Yeah.
So we have the same conversation in 3 to 5 years. I think it will be the tone will be different.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where performance cycling goes. I guess we've got the race bikes get more aggressive and more expensive and more difficult to ride for normal people. Will we then see another sort of subset of bikes coming out that are still very performance, but performance for the likes of me and you? That would be interesting.
I think what can happen, Mercedes, they sell cars and they are present in Formula One, but they don't sell Mercedes Formula One cars to the general public. They They say, hey, we are this brand who has all this history and this experience of racing, and we are using it to make the best possible cars for you people, everyday people. So
Yeah.
I think that's what is going to happen, and it will be interesting to see how this happens.
Yeah. It's kind of exciting. I think there's going to be a few. I think most of the race bikes have still got another year or two before they seem to be in like a 2 to 3 year cycle of change. And I think most of a lot of the changes came out last year. So I think we'll see another year, maybe 2027, 2028. That's when we'll start seeing which way this is going to go. It'll be really exciting, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So what else is on the cards for you over the next few months? I mean, I guess are you able to get out in the current conditions much on the bike, or is it skiing?
Well, today was skiing because we got some fresh snow last 2 days. It was a powder day, so I made the best of it. Actually, 20 minutes before starting this this call, I was still
Yeah,
on I
nice.
ski, and it's a great workout because you can do alpine skis, and that's great strength workouts. But if you do ski touring, you go up, and that's very good cardio and overall training. I mean, I try to do it as much as possible to mix it up, but it all depends on the weather, on the conditions, and if we have, some warmer days, I can still get out on the bike. I live on the top of the mountain, so I can actually go, if the road is dry, I can go down with more layers, then take them off, come back, sweat like a pig, and be home, which people who lived in the valley cannot do, because if they go up, they are very wet and they get cold very quickly when they go back down. So that's my little advantage of living in the mountains. But yeah, no, I can still ride my bike. The Rhone Valley is like 400 meters altitude, so you can ride all year round. So yeah, but I make a point of going outdoors as much as I can. I don't have an indoor bike or anything like that. Do some gym work to
Yeah, I'm very jealous.
keep some strength and stability and prepare for the summer. But that's it. Otherwise, it's running, skiing, and riding.
So I'm going to kind of start to wrap things up here a little bit, but I really want to do another sales pitch for Simon at Swiss Tourism. And just if you could just sum up why you think people should come to Switzerland. Why is it so much? I think it's better than anywhere else, but why do you think it's better than anywhere else?
Well, as a Swiss, I'm not very
Very
good at
biased.
selling. I'm not this extrovert. So of course it's hard to say that we are better than the rest. But
I'll say it for you.
no, I think really it's this hidden gem feeling. You think you've done it all. You think that you've done the big passes in France, in Italy, and then you come to Switzerland and you discover those roads that are not on Instagram, that are not, on the top 10 list of everyone, but they are actually as good, if not better, because the landscapes are amazing, roads are excellent quality, the traffic, the cars. I mean, I think it's an issue everywhere, not because people are good or people are bad, but because there's just too many people. And the roads are not, you can't extend the roads, so that there's people. But in general, the drivers are nice to bikes, and you feel safe on the Swiss roads. And it's the Alps, so it's beautiful. It's good mountain food. You have good places to stay, and
Yeah,
the public transport system is amazing. So you don't need a car to get around. You can catch a train. As I said, you can even catch a cable car on your right if
first
you do
time
the
I
same
came over,
path.
they said to me, I was like, I'll rent a car. And they just laughed at me. They're like, why do you want to rent a car?
Mm.
Obviously, because I'm used to UK public transport, which is awful. And they said, no, trust us, don't rent a car. And I didn't. But getting around was so easy. And like, it's just ridiculous. Why can't everywhere else be like that?
Yeah, you have trains in most places. Otherwise, you have buses, and you can carry your transport your bike in the bus. So it's really nice, and that's something I do myself. Sometimes I leave from the house, ride, and come back by train, or so it's really good. And yeah, and also there's some great riding around here, and I encourage anyone who wants to explore the mountains to come to Switzerland.
And I would recommend to anyone, if they've been thinking of going, or this has inspired them to go, they need to contact you on Instagram, because there is nothing that you don't know and nowhere that you don't know in Switzerland to ride. So, you can look everything up on Strava and Komoot, but actually Alain is probably the best place for resources.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate, but it's also something I enjoy doing. Like when
Clearly.
people come, say, "Hey, I've seen this. Can you help me design a trip?" Or I have a website with a lot of information already. It's called
Yeah.
Switchback. But on top of that,
I'll
I'm
put
always
I'll put a link on that, and obviously to your Instagram on the podcast when it goes out. Really, really grateful for you messaging me the other week, and it was really, really good to catch up. And I'm gonna get off this now and email Simon and see what we can do for yourself.
I might have a word with him as well. But thank you so much for having me, because it was a great pleasure to catch up after so many years, first of all, but also to chat and reflect, because that's something I really enjoy doing.
Thanks, Alan. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your season, and hope all the racing goes well for you as well.
Thank
And
you,
I
and
hope I get to see you this year.
see you in summer in Switzerland.
Fingers crossed. Thanks a lot, mate.
Okay, bye.